Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Portland, Liberia. We're coming to you from the city of Jonesboro, where the CPP is having a fundraiser today. And so we have Liberians who are gathered here under this beautiful weather. And we're going to have um, a live broadcast. Attention, as I said, we're here to raise funds. Although the main aim of this gathering is to raise funds. We need money for the pool washer jackets. We also need to compensate the pool washer. And so Ada is going to speak to us, and then maybe we might have the Mr. Cummings and Shannon later on. What? For now we have Mr. Munger. There you go, Mr. Munger. The floor is yours. Okay. Thank you, darling. And good afternoon to everyone out there. Can you guys hear? Yeah, they hear. Sincere apologies for not being there with you. As you know, about 2 weeks or so ago, we left Liberia. I had left, the Standard Bearer, Mr. Cummings left, the bystander bearer, Dr. Brumskin left, head of mobilization, Mr. Wisner, as well as the chief of staff, amongst others. And we came to the U.S. to mobilize resources. Mr. Cummings, Mr. Wisner, Councilor Yakula have all since returned, along with President Finley, and Councilor Brumsky and I are still here. In fact, the reason I'm still here is there's a fundraiser that she and I, in her honor, that will be attending tonight. So we are in the Washington, D.C. area as we speak. And then we will both be returning next week to Liberia. As you know, there's 94 days to do it. And if you've been following the activities on the ground, we have the momentum now. But we need to sustain that momentum. I think you saw the event in Danta, the convention in Danta. You saw the DSP rollout in Ghana 2 weeks later on the 27th. Subsequently followed the tour that we undertook in the Southeast. So coming to I visited Maryland, both Pablo and Chico districts, as well as spending some time in his ancestral home of Wiccan, which is in the Largo district. He also went to River G. Chairman? Yes?
Yeah, we can hear you trying to connect it on a speaker. Can you hold on for just a minute or two?
We hear him, but not loud.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. For those of you watching the Bottle Liberia, we'd like to say welcome. This is the CPP Norway chapter. We here in the city of Toast Park, where Liberians who believe in the dream of the CPP have gathered to raise funds. And as you can see, we have both ladies and men here. We are eating. Now it's time for the food session. Outside there is a grill going on. And so it's going to be an evening of activities here. So if you're in a Toonsburg area, we welcome you to come.
Hello. Hello. Hello? Yep.
Okay, and you see all the handymen, they're working on the PA system. And things are going on right now. So we'd like to say welcome to the Bottom Line Liberia. My name is Linford Goy, as usual, your host.
Chairman, you want to try?
Much better.
Hello, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2.
So it's a festive occasion. This is no formal thing. This is a fundraiser. So
we have 1, 2, 1, 2.
We have food and everything.
Is it better? I think it's much better.
I mean, I'm in a hotel room, so I can project a little more than that without.
Yeah,
It's much better.
Much better. Go on.
Much better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, so as I led off, we came to the U.S. a couple of weeks ago.
Hold on, Chairman. Something just popped up.
Exactly. Do you have music connected? No, because if you just close the music, then you just
Close it. I can't see my glasses. There's some music like this. It's in no case like that.
Is there any
Okay,
audio?
probably you just joining in for the first time. This is the Portland Library. Let's say welcome. My name is Leonard Goa.
Yeah.
We're here in the city of Toonsburg. The CPP Norway is raising funds. As you know, elections are very close. We have a little, just about 3 months ago to go to the elections. And the CPP is.
Despite the absence of it's greatly appreciated. Don't take for granted what you do, and that just even if it did not pull off, get these to prior to
Can you guys hear?
No.
They're not hearing you.
Maybe they can bring it. Oh, okay, sit down in your group.
We hearing. Maybe those people who are
We're hearing, but it's just that everybody's not hearing.
It's not going through the speaker.
It's not going to the speaker.
Let Courage help us with it. Connected by Bluetooth.
Wait, is this phone, is it connected to the speaker through Bluetooth?
I don't even know.
How is this connected to the speaker?
1, 2, 1, 2.
The Bluetooth?
It's okay.
Don't you connect this to the speaker?
Yeah, it's not connected to the speaker.
Where is the? Because there's nothing to Bluetooth. Connect the computer.
That's what we're trying to do.
Then you have to disconnect first.
This is not
It's the PC.
It's not connected. The PC, you can see the PC is connected.
It's not connected because you see.
Well, right now we're trying to get a PA system to work, but it's not easy. So, but the program is going on. People are eating. This is the food session. So everybody's kind of busy. We're doing something. I think you see my table right here, right? See my table. The 1 star. The Lone Star like the only difference between the star and the Lone Star is this is a red star. You know what this red star means? This is the Hennepin star.
you have to switch to the Bluetooth.
Now you are great. You are great, Mr. Chairman. So.
Yeah.
Okay, close.
It's connected now?
Yeah.
Muy bien connected.
It's okay.
Okay. Is it good now?
Yes, it's good. It's good. It's good.
Okay, good. So again, thank you everyone for assembling out in Norway this weekend. We regret that we could not be there with you. We had looked forward to joining you. As I stated, we left a couple of weeks ago for the U.S. to mobilize resources. Mr. Cummings has since returned, along with the chief of staff as well as the head of mobilization, Mr. Wisner, and Councilor Finley, former Senator Finley, and Councilor Bromskin, the VSB, the Vice Senator Vera, and myself are still here. In fact, we're in the DC area. There's a fundraiser in her honor tonight that we'll be attending, and then we'll be returning back to Liberia next week. With 94 days to go, literally 3 months, the momentum has never been greater that we have right now, but we have to not only sustain it, but build on that momentum. And I mean, if you have followed the period between May 13th through when we left, I would say June 17th. The May 13th convention in Ganta, you saw how well attended it was, followed by the DSB rollout in Buchanan on the 27th, followed by our visit, Mr. Cummings and I visit to the Southeast, where we visited Maryland, River G, and Grand Crew, um, as well as followed by the last trip we made, which was to Bangai that Saturday before we left for the U.S., where Senator Yala and others endorse us. We have the momentum at our side. Um, the VSB has completed her registration as a vice presidential candidate. Mr. Cummings will be completing his this week. As you know, the deadline is Friday. I believe he will do his sometime early in the week. It hasn't been announced yet, but I would assume because he just got in yesterday, he will do it sometime between Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. And so, with these 94 days to go, the focus really is on how do we continue to mobilize on a grassroots level? How do we continue to push the message of real change, the message of fixing the system on a grassroots level? Because when people, as we all know, today is the 8th. So in 18 days, Liberia will be 176 years old from an independence standpoint, or 201 years old from the perspective of when it was founded. Yet, while the oldest republic, we continue to lag in every major indicator across the continent for the most part. Even if you just go next door to Sierra Leone, I mean, it was surprising to know that for us to go to Maryland, the roads were so impassable through Sino and Grand Prix that we literally had to go through the Ivory Coast. So we had to go through Ganta, Sanikole, Logato, and then cut through Dalane, Ma, St. Pedro, and then down to Tabu, and then cross over the Kavala River. Um, and these people, there's nothing that Ivorians have that we don't have or can't have or whatever. But like from Dalane all the way to Tabu, for the most part, paved roads. They had their gendarmeries, their gendarmes escort us, which is like their militarized police. And you could see the system that they had in place in terms of handoff from one precinct to another along the way. And even when you go into their banks, the orderliness by which they operated totally different from what. And so all of that is just to say we need to fix our country, right? If you've been to Liberia recently, you would see how bad the situation is. Not only is the system broken, but now under the mismanagement of the WEA government, the country is regressing. Day by day, the country regresses. And so, what is at stake over the next 94 days is existential, right? It's a fight to save the soul of that country. It's a fight to save the future of the young people of that country. And they make up 60% of the country, right? But in order to be able to do this fight, we would need each and every one of you to join in. No one has the luxury of sitting on the fence. No one has the luxury of saying that the people think. No one has the luxury of sitting on the sidelines. And by joining in that fight, it starts first with whatever resources you can help mobilize, do. It can be cash, it can be in kind. But beyond just the mobilization of resources, which is key, is critical because we cannot push the messaging or the political communications apparatus without resources. We cannot push the uh, political organizing or mobilization, stakeholders outreach, community engagement machinery with our resources. But beyond the actual resources, cash and in kind, right? And in kind could be like maybe you have access in Liberia to like a old pickup or SUV that you can make available, or motorcycles, etc., right? Or a printing press to help us print T-shirts, whatever it is, right? All of those are in-kind resources. But beyond just those resources, your individual involvement, whether it's your boots on the ground, you coming on the ground to help us, or if you cannot come, you reaching out to your friends and family across Europe, across the diaspora, you reaching so that they trying to convert them to this cause, trying to get them off the sideline. You then also reaching out to friends and family back home, trying to make sure that they don't stay home because that's also one of the huge risk that we have ahead of us as we go into this election. Voter apathy, voters believing all the incumbent can be defeated, or voters thinking, well, the opposition is not united. How would they beat, a sitting president? And so making sure that those people don't have the mindset that, oh, I don't want to waste my votes, that they do show up and that they do vote. You play no small part in that by just picking up the phone, calling friends and family, and impressing upon them the urgency of the moment that we now face. Um, so again, I applaud you for gathering this weekend. This effort to mobilize resources is key. But beyond the resources, like I said, where you can, lend your time, with whether it's your boots on the ground or it's you picking up the phone and calling people across the diaspora and within Liberia. Because don't think of you calling people in the diaspora as a waste, because the one person you convert, they can convert their own friends and families back home, and they can convert other people across the diaspora. But then, more importantly, you calling people back home and influencing them. As it relates to why you're gathered, as you know, there are roughly 5,190 polling stations and about 2,080 precincts. Um, the way it typically works at each polling station, you will have one poll watcher, and there will be an alternate, and then there's a supervisor assigned to each precinct. So if you just wager and say, which is not the case because some precinct will have multiple polling stations, but if you just wager and say that a station is in one precinct, so that means for every station you have, a washer, an alternate washer, and a supervisor. So you have three persons. On average, the overhead cost per day is roughly $30 per. When you drop below $20, then you're taking the risk. As UP saw firsthand in their local county primary, because others will be paying more. We're targeting about $30, like I say. And so if you're thinking about adopting a whole polling station, just put the number roughly at $100 per polling station, right? That needs to be adopted. And so if against that backdrop, as you think through how you all want to go about it, whether it's you're thinking about, or I'll be responsible for these many reflector jackets at this polling station, as well as adopting the polling station. So it's roughly, $100, or if you do the conversion to euro, um, it will probably come somewhere close to about 85 fish or so. And then you add whatever the cost of those jackets are. But hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of, what, the task is at hand. Um, and that piece is in no small part one of the most critical aspects of winning and losing the election. There are three places you win and lose the election. The first place is what we like to call rock the vote, which is this whole effort to recruit and mobilize people, right? That's it. So everything you're doing around community engagement, around rallies, around signing up people, making them Democratic Party members or just signing them up as voters, et cetera, et cetera. All of those efforts, reaching out to influencers, getting stakeholders to endorse you. All of that is the whole Rock to Vote effort, right? Recruitment mobilization. That's the first place you can win and lose an election. And include the voter registration period as well, trying to push as many persons through the voter registration process. If you do not have a successful effort at rocking the vote, then it doesn't matter because you won't be able to turn out the vote because the next important place in the process is what we call the get out the vote. Because you can sign up hundreds of thousands of people, right? Which we've already done. And I can tell you that for a fact. The ANC, just the ANC, not even the CPP or the larger team Cummings, the ANC as a political party has signed up more than twice as many persons as Mr. Cummings got in votes in 2017. So in the ANC database, which we have access to because we pay for it, we set it up and everything. There are twice as many members, and you can pick up the phone, you can call them. There's a call center that we use to reach out to them, like wish them happy birthday. Just in the ANC database, there's over twice as many people sign up. So then we add the Team Cummings records to it, the larger CPP stuff. You can do your own extrapolation for that. But it doesn't matter if you put all those people in your database and you can call them and so forth. But if you don't have a process to turn them out to the polls, you will lose the election there. So the second place you lose the election is getting out your votes. And so that requires resources because some people may be in faraway places and you have to send motorbikes to go get them and bring them to the polling stations, etc., etc. Or you need to have your calling centers, calling them, verifying that they need to get to the polling centers. And then you then have to make sure you either provide the trucks or the pickups and the motorbikes that will get them there. And then the last place you win or lose the vote is where you guys are now focused, which we call protective votes. That's your poll watching. And so to conclude, what you're setting out to do here, in no small part, is one of the most critical aspects of whether we are successful on October 10th or not, right? And so I hope you understand the magnitude and the significance of your efforts, as well as the urgency of the moment we now face. But I can assure you that I've never been more confident in terms of our ability to get this effort that we've been on for almost a decade now over the finish line. The momentum we have now, the people that are just organically rallying to our cause now, and we're doing all of this without spending the resources that, for example, were spent in 2017. I'm sure you've heard, some of the harping on resourcing, across the structure. So 2023 is not 2017, yet people from all ranks and rank and file of the society are rallying, to the cause, regardless, right? Organically coming to the cause. And so this is an opportunity we cannot miss because, truthfully speaking, this is an opportunity Liberia cannot afford to miss. If Liberia misses this opportunity, and we know how our people are, how our people vote, there's no one right now on the political landscape that will be next up 6 years from now. So literally, this would be another 12 or more year window. If we miss this opportunity, it's not possibly an 18-year window before Liberia will have another shot at trying to bring about real transformative change. And if you add 15 to 20 years to each of our ages, and you add 15 to 20 years of the country going nowhere, where the rest of the world and the rest of the sub-region and the rest of Africa is moving ahead, we can only, see how bad that picture looks for Liberia. So I'll stop here and again, thank you all. And, I'll hang around for however Dolly and Paul Lanford, want to utilize me. But again, thank you, everyone, and hope you have a successful event.
Chairman, will you obtain few questions from the audience here before you leave?
Sure, 1 second. Yes, I will. 1 second.
Any questions? Anyone has questions they want to ask?
Anything that you don't understand or anything you wonder about?
Yes, sir, I'm back.
I wanted to ask how is the party standing in the election or like winning lose?
Probably didn't get a question, no, Chairman. She's asking. Okay, come
Yes, I was asking how is the party standing right now? Do we have the chance of winning or is it a challenge?
Yeah, no, so it's kind of, I think, where I left off. We have never been in a better position than we are now. And it depends. So one of the things that I like to do is I prefer to run this race running scared as opposed to running confident. But I'm very confident that if we do the work, we will win, right? And it's from what I saw across the country, whether we're in River G, whether we're in Maryland, Grand Crew, Bong. But if you want to use the Western approach to things using polls, right? There's this outfit out there called Zogby, independent outfit. They didn't do it for us. They didn't do it for any of the local people. They did it on their own. Zogby polling is suggesting, which I don't entirely agree with them, but as things currently trending, that George Weah could not make it to the second round. I don't agree with them. But I also understand where they are coming from because we have done our own internal polling. And our own internal polling tells us that 2/3 to 70% of the country do not want George Weah. They're not decided on who in the opposition they're going with, but they don't want George Weah. Now the problem with that group though is some of them could stay home, right? And so while they may not want George Weah, that's where we have to do the work to make that group that they don't stay home, that they all show up to the polls. Because if indeed they do all show up to the polls, there's a strong likelihood that what Zogby is suggesting would be the case, that he could not make it in. So right now, as it stands, if you just focus on the people who are decided, not the people who are saying, okay, we don't want George Weah, but we're not decided. If you just focus on the people who are decided, depending on where you look, sometimes we show up second, sometimes we show up third. Because amongst the people who are decided, George Weah still leads. He still has a larger percentage of the people who are decided. Um, but then sometimes we'll show up second or third, depending on where. But amongst the people who are undecided, if you and they decided they don't want Weah, but they're undecided on who. If you think about it, they all know Black Eye. If they were going to choose him, they would have chosen him now. And so they, for whatever reason, they don't want Weah, but they don't want to choose Black Eye. So that means they're up for grabs for us, provided we can give them the belief that we are going to pull it off and that we're going to win and that their lives are going to change. And so, but yes, I'm very confident that if we do the work, we will succeed.
Thank you.
Reverend?
Mr. Chairman, I'm Reverend Eric Warner. I have a question.
Hi, Reverend.
Yeah. I'm very concerned, and I'm sure a whole lot of Liberians, both in and outside Liberia, are concerned about the security situation in the country. What I have not heard are specifics relating to how is CPP, ANC, going to address that situation differently from what is happening right now. Because if we're going to get votes, we have to speak about the things that are concerning to the common Liberian. I have friends in the States that say to me that, look, I can't go to Liberia right now. I'm just afraid. It's risky. So what do we tell people when we talk with Liberians in the diaspora? What do we tell them that this administration, this party will do differently from what is happening right now? These are questions people talk about all the time.
Right, right. No, and those are fair questions. So the first thing, Reverend, is to lay out what is the vision, right? And when we talk about this real change and this fixing the system is just addressing the economic and governance problems, i.e., jobs and corruption, that continue to plague the country, as well as investing in building human capacity and investing in building the infrastructure, right? Now, what is this real change? The real change really boils down to the supremacist vision of, I just said Liberia is going to be 176 years old in the next 18 days, right? Or if you want to think since founding, it will be 201 years old. And it's 201 years old this year, as of January of this year. And yet we remain at the bottom of almost every socioeconomic indicator in the world. Um, if you if you think about it, most parts of Liberia remain in the 19th century. Even Monrovia, one can wager, is still in the 20th century, not quite fully in the 21st century, right? And so this vision of real change that Cummings speaks to is in part to ensure a society that allows for equal access to the opportunities that the country natural resource can provide, so economic opportunities, but it's also about moving Liberia into the 21st century, right? And so I don't know if you've seen the visuals of what that looks like when you see our house and it said 21st century Liberia, and then the house has 5 pillars, and the 5 pillars are jobs and economy, infrastructure, agriculture, development, uh, expanding education, modernizing healthcare, right? Education and healthcare. And then below that, then you see like 3 stairs or steps, right? One of them is clean hands, and it says governance and security. The other is Hearts and Minds, National Inclusion Service, and then the last one is Smart Liberia, ICT. That clean hands, a governance and security. What is in there? It speaks to what you were raising. And there's a whole policy team. I co-chair the CPP platform committee, so I know what's in the platform. For the most part, co-wrote it with Dr. Togar Markentis Gilway. But as it relates to governance and security, the security piece is a key component and it's multifaceted. There is first the issue around what I would call geopolitical security that's built in there, i.e., the current struggles between the what you call the liberal democracies and the authoritarian governments, and where you align in that struggle that's currently going on, right? One way to think about it, you will see the U.S. EU pull versus the China Russia pull, and so there's security issues around that, and some of those security issues have implications even right in the West African sub-region, and so that is also factor in there, and we and our position is aligned with what are like your true values, right? So everything that Liberia tends to align itself historically from a value standpoint, and so that, but at the same time, addressing our priorities and our needs in order to develop our country. So what that means is, while from a value standpoint, we may be aligned with the U.S. EU pole, but it doesn't negate our ability to deal with the Chinese pole, because at the end of the day, the country has to be developed. So, from a foreign policy and national security standpoint, that's one piece. Then you come in from a regional security standpoint, the issue around the rise in Islamic terrorism all across the sub-region. That is also another focus, and how that impacts the stability of the country from a security standpoint. Then you come domestically within the society, the issue around rule of law, right? And the issue around public safety. Um, One of the first place of concern, it has to do with the issue of our at-risk and disadvantaged youth that some people disparagingly call Zogos. We actually found a better name for them when we were in Maryland, and we ran into a group of them in Maryland. They call themselves the Brotherhood. But however you want to term those young men, that is a public safety security risk, because when you have a group of idle young people, many of them under the influence, and there's nothing to do, that's a recipe for rise in a lot of different violence, but also a group that can be exploited by any nefarious mind, right? And so one of the first things from a security standpoint is addressing that group. The stopping of the drug flow into the country, the rehabilitation of those young people, reskilling of those young people, and giving them opportunity. As you move to the national police, it's addressing the fact that, right now the police is politicized and unprofessional. So it's getting the police now to be a non-politicized, independent entity that operates from a degree of professionalism, that are paid and they're properly trained and are properly resourced so that they can do their job and do their job without political influence. And the focus is really on more the police than the army, because like we really don't have too much on the external threats that we have to worry about, and just through regional cooperation and the whole regional security blanket, um, it negates the need to focus extensively on building the army in the short term. In the long term, yes, but given the resource constraints, building the army in the short term, but most still addressing the rebuilding of the police force, the reprofessionalizing and empowering and resourcing of the police force so that they can protect the public, and so that people can move around the country with peace of mind and not worry about that whatever hard-earned things that they've accumulated being stolen or being lost, et cetera, et cetera. So no, security is a key part of the pillar. Uh, so hopefully I addressed your concerns.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Monga. Hello.
Yes, Dan.
Okay, I have two
Yeah,
questions.
hello.
I have two questions for you. My name is
Okay.
Selena Gibson. And my first question is the voter registration that has taken place. There are a lot of people who have, registered twice. So, what mechanism have CPP put in place to avoid double voting and to secure that the voting process is done in an orderly manner?
Okay. So while it hasn't been proven beyond and all reasonable doubts, I mean, it is clear that the WIA administration set out with a scheme to rig the elections. It was first evident by what they tried to do with the census. If you notice that the southeast region saw an astronomical bump in its population, which the math just doesn't add up. When I just spoke to our attempts to go to the southeast, and the southeast is cut off from the rest of the country because of lack of roads, etc., etc. But they suggest that all of a sudden people somehow either relocated to the southeast because other areas saw a drop, like Grand Bassa and so forth. People all of a sudden relocated to the southeast, or for whatever reason, there was a huge boom in babies in the southeast. Well, suffice to say, there were a lot of noise raised around that. And so by the time we got to the voter registration process, a lot of attention was paid specifically to the Southeast. And so when the numbers came in, if you saw the first group of numbers, actually, the voter registration went down by about 4 to 5,000. It used to be 2.476 million as of 2020. The first set of numbers that came out was 2.471 million. They since readjusted the number somewhat and it's gone up by about 22 million. So I think right now it's about 2.4992 or 93 million. That's where it is at. But even there, most of the increase came from Monserrato. Across the southeast, only Maryland County saw an increase from a voter registration standpoint. Everywhere else saw a decrease. They reported collectively that was somewhere between 24 to 25,000 double registrants, and some of that information was forwarded to the to the Ministry of Justice for prosecution. And so that's the first piece. And even then, again, the international observers, CPP, others have, like they're calling out the um, anomalies that we're seeing in the data. We haven't gotten the final, because usually what they do is once they finalize the voter roll, and I think that happens this week, the 12th, I believe, they will turn over the voter roll to each party. So once we get the voter roll on the 12th, we can bet on the 12th. We can better do our analysis to identify all the anomalies and do additional challenges, working with the West African sub-region, ECOWAS, to see if any further sanitization or scrubbing of that voter roll needs to take place. But fast forward to October 10th, right? So 94 days from now. Your purpose here today is specifically to address the question you raise, which is it is true those poll washers, right, that we will identify in the next month or so and train in the next 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, and then deploy them on election day. It will be in no small part those poll washers that will be responsible for, monitoring against those things like double voting and so forth, right? Because a poll watcher should be able to see whether or not, someone that's coming to vote has the ink on their hand or not, right? That would suggest, oh, this person has voted already previously. Or even if somehow the person they didn't change stations but managed to get the ink off their hand and show up at the same station, the poll watcher should be able to challenge this person and say, no, this person was here before. And usually when that happens, like there'll be international observers and so forth at many of those stations, then that voter in question gets pulled aside and the matter gets looked into. I mean, the process continues, but that's how it's supposed to work. So to get to the root of what you were saying is it's really election day monitoring that would be the last safeguard against the double voting. But given, like we said, that the numbers haven't really moved a whole lot, if in 2020 it was for the senatorial race, it was 2.476, and today for October 10th, 2023, is 2.493. 20,000 change wouldn't get anyone any significant bump. But at the same time, we got to still be vigilant and not let down our guard. But our fear that they were going to pad the voter roll, that fear is now diminished, right? Because clearly they were unsuccessful at padding the voter roll like the way they padded the census. And so now it's just making sure from a Powashi standpoint that we don't let our eye off the ball, so to speak.
And my second question here is, as the election campaign draws nearer and nearer, what mechanism or strategy have you people put in place to meet the young voters, first time voters, the students, and so forth?
So the way we think about the campaign, I would say, is threefold. We think about it in terms of the psychographics of the population, meaning how people think, right? So Liberians are mostly visual and auditory, not written for the most part. And our people are very traditional, especially if you get outside of the urban and para-urban areas, right? They're very traditional. Hence, the clan slash tribal thing comes into play, is what I would call poro politics comes into play. So that's the first place how we think about the population. The next way we think about a population, besides the psychographics, is geography, right? So the physical lay of the land. Six counties account for roughly 80% of the votes. And those six counties in order are Monserrado with a roughly 36%, um, Nimba with roughly 12%, Bong were roughly 9%. Gibi were roughly 8%. Lofa were roughly 7%. And Grand Bassa were roughly 6.5%. So collectively, those six are the roughly 80% of the population. And then the southeast as a block, they account for north of 10%, but roughly 11%. And then the southwest, mainly Buffalo, Kidma, and Bombay account for roughly 8. And so the way we have thought about it is just in terms of those dynamics that geographically we will focus on what we call the Greater Montserrado area, um, and that is Montserrado extending into Monte, right, as our first area of focus, and then by extension the Western cluster. And then the next area of focus is, Nima, the second largest. And so that's the geographic thinking of things. Even there, because we're running a 73 district campaign. And so even across each of those six counties, we're not competing the same across every district, right? So take Nima County, for example. We we're more heavily over indexed in what I would call the Mano Belt districts 1, 2, 7, and 8, right? Versus the Geo Belt, which are the other five districts. Um, a bit in the Tapata area, which is the Geo Belt part, but still, um, largely speaking, we're more over indexed in the Mano Belt over the Geo Belt. So while we compete in NEMA, how the resources are dispersed across all the districts wouldn't be evenly the same. So it's the same thing in Monserrado. It's the same thing in any of the other countries. So that geographically, that's how we think about it, right? Um, and then kind of overlay with that is what you call the the Riverland, given the SB's historical lineage. That's their son. So the focus on the Riverland. Same thing. Uh, uh, the VSB. She's the only national candidate person from the Bassa land, and so leaning into that. And so by Bassa land, it's not just Grand Bassa, so Roses, Grand Bassa, um, Lower Mine into Montserrat Boison, District 610, even if you want to extend into Bowman where the days are, Lower Nima, the Cocoya area, so that's your whole Bassa Belt. Whereas, River Belt, for example, is River G, Maryland, into Grand Crew, and then coming into Monterrey, District 12, 15, and so forth. And then also the Pella Belt, in part because one, they're the largest group. Um, they account for roughly 20% of the population. The Gaza Belt accounts for roughly 13%, River Belt roughly 10%. So combine those top three, they account for 43%, and then the Geo 8%, Bell 8%, Minor Bell 7%. But the reason for Pelga also being the largest, the chairman of the party, he's from there, but from the Bapalu side, but as you know, they cut from Bapalu all the way across Bombing, Lower Lofa, Bong, Mangiri, Lower Nimba. And so that from a geographic standpoint is how we think about it. Then the last way we think about it, which is where you were going, is we think about it demographically in terms of two groups, women and the young people. Because like I said, the young people make up about 60% of the country, right? 60% of the country, I think, are under the age of 35 or 30, one of the two. But yeah, they make up the lion's share of the population. The reason we also focus on them and not just quote unquote the first time voters is when you look at all of the past voting patterns, you will see, okay, um, in what's it called? In 2020, we had 2.476 million people registered, about 1.5 million um, eligible votes. When you dig deep into the numbers, you will see that the average age went from 19 to 35 in terms of from registered to what voted. And the reason being is, yeah, the young people do register, but then the young people don't show up, right? And so then that means you have to have, going back to what I talked about getting out the vote, you have to have a concerted effort in place to make sure you turn them out. And so there's been a number of thinking in terms of how we do that from a campaign standpoint. One is to ensure that before we get there, so going back to the whole, before you get to the get out of the vote, because how you keep them engaged and energized, is to ensure that you have organic youth efforts led by young people themselves. So, like I even personally have a number of those that I personally fund. One of them is called Cummings Octopus. I don't know if you've ever seen that, something called Yes to Cummings Girls Movement. I personally, and there's like about 8 or 9 such organizations. But beyond what I may do and others are personally doing, that whole mindset of thinking about it that from a campaign standpoint, that these types of organic youth effort led by young people themselves are what it would take to kind of keep them engaged and keep them energized. So then that come the get out the votes period, you can then leverage them to turn out the votes to make sure that you know that they have their peers not sitting off the fence. Um, Also tied to that, as we speak, there's a concerted effort around the first-time voters. There was a first-time voter registration effort that we did during the voter registration period, and as we move now into the election phase, direct engagement with first-time voters on campuses are one of the areas that we're heavily focused on. Direct engagement with the at-risk youth that I talked about has already started, and that's another place that we look to increase. You know, so first-time voters, at-risk youth, um, disadvantaged youth. So the VFB, for example, has had a very close affinity to the disadvantaged youth. That's your Keke and Pempen boys, right? And so she wants to ensure that there's a concerted effort of engagement with them, outreach and engagement with them to bring them into the process to make sure that they're a part of the process. And then the SB himself, he's going to more focus on the at-risk youth, the ones that of late, the one that you people may wrongly refer to as Zogos. And so, yeah, so it's a combination of that, getting to at-risk youth, getting to disadvantaged youth, engaging first-time voters on their campuses, and then leveraging those organic youth efforts as a mechanism to turn out their peers.
Thank you. Yeah.
And hello, my name is Patience. I just want to ask how many parties make up the CPP in terms of if our all and comments will go for second time, second round.
Right, right. So right now you have within the CPP you have the ANC, the Alternative National, the Congress, and the Liberty Party. Um, when the two parties signed the agreement, they left a block of potential candidates, four potential candidates that could be either independent or other parties. And so between now and July 14th, there may be other folks that may not necessarily be, a full party that may be involved, but that will be coming on because July 14th is the cutoff for candidacy. And so those will be shared then. But until then, it's just the ANC and the LP. But just kind of putting things in context, right? The CDC is made up of really, I did not call it the Grand Coalition of the CDC because I believe like six other smaller parties, quote unquote, join. But if 17 elections, there, there were roughly 20 candidates. Five accounted for 92%, and the remaining 8% were divided among the remaining 15 candidates. And of those remaining 15 candidates, none got to 25,000. Right. Ben Ayure was the only one that was close. He was, I think, around 22,000 or 24,000. And then Mills Jones, and then everybody else dropped off. They were around 12,000, 10,000, 5,000, 1,000. Some people less than 1,000. Only five exceeded 100,000, and that was the ANC, um, the NDR, which is Prince Johnson's party, the Liberty Party, Brunskine's party, Unity Party, and CDC. Those were the only five. And really, the election will come down from that same group. Nothing more, nothing less. Just given how the country votes, it will be that same block. And so in that block, Liberty and ANC are in alliance with some members of Liberty, also with Unity Party. And then in that alliance, NDR is also with Unity. Um, but then some members of CDC's alliance have joined the ANC alliance. So like Toka McIntosh, he was the chair of the CPP's, I'm sorry, of the CDC's campaign effort in 2017, because he's an executive member of LPDP, Alex Tyler Party. And so now he's in the ANC CPP coalition, just as Bonnie, who was the chairman of the NPP that was in that CDC coalition, is now with. So it's all people moving around across the board. The other smaller parties are just really going to be, to bring along stakeholders, but they really don't bring along like a lot of numbers.
Any other questions? So, Chairman, I think you said it all. And where's the VSB? You muted.
She's somewhere here in the DC area herself.
Right, because
I will see her in about 4 hours.
right. The ladies here really wanted to see her, so but it is what it is. So and Norway and Sweden are yearning for the both of them, the SB and the VSB. So for the future, I think the Scandinavian should be, if the CPP win, should be the target even for their first visit instead of going to America all the time. So that would be my suggestion to the team coming. Something that we could look at.
Yeah, no, the SBI thing said as much. From a governance standpoint, Scandinavia will play no small part. There's so much that we can borrow, gain from a closer collaboration with, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Finland. That, and especially the Swedes and the Norwegians, they're much more involved in Liberia. But yeah, there's a whole lot, from the education system to how they handle natural resources to ensure equitable, access to the citizenry, et cetera, et cetera. So he intends to ensure, because between me and you, when we win, that country, that everything about that country will be, the coffers will be empty, will be bare. Those those boys, just as they can loot while they're in power, they will loot on their way out. And so from October 10th, we will have to start rushing to places to mobilize resources to have it, ready, by whenever the election is done, right? Rushing to places to mobilize resources for like 2 months to have it ready come January 22nd, 2024, because there will be nothing there. So yeah, Scandinavia will be on the list of the first places that he'll be rushing to.
Great. Any other questions?
I have a question. It's not a question, it's really how I say it, opinion. It's Orita, Elas. And
Hey, Rita.
how you doing?
I'm good, dear. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you.
You're coming? You're coming for the campaign, right?
Oh yeah. I'll be on Ryan.
Okay.
We can come for everything, but I can come for one.
Yeah.
Dolly, I'm making flour.
Hey, darling. You coming too?
We can come for everything. We can come. We can show face. We can show face.
Before Orito,
Okay, I will come, darling. I will come just for you. I will come.
before Orito asks a question, I know there's a team of army in Europe that volunteer to be pool watchers. So that list will be coming up for me soon.
Yes.
So just be aware. So those people from Europe will be pool watchers.
Agree.
Orito?
Yeah. Yeah. What I'm gonna ask is the fact that when concerning Liberia, because as a country and as a people, Liberians in the diaspora and on ground, we have seen life from a different perspective. Because even Liberians in Liberia, a lot of them have traveled to other African countries. Some of them traveled to China to go buy, business. My question is, because I talked to my cousin, is this you you kind of touched on it a little earlier concerning the travel thing, but there's this thing to where Liberians on ground, they they kind of bring this division among Liberians on ground and the diaspora. Is this something you are seeing when it comes to how Liberians on ground? Because some Liberians on ground really do their best. They always say, okay, Mr. Cummings can do the job, but we want y'all to come and change everything here. That's the thing. And the thing is that because as a Liberia need to change. I mean, we just need to turn Liberia upside down.
Oh.
I'm being really, really drastically. So my question is this something that have come to your acknowledgement or not aware of it? I mean, CPP has a whole and CPP has a party and wanting to access the highest chair. Is that something you would notice or other ANC and CPP members? No, CPP members. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a long question, but I hope I.
Yeah. So Yeah, no, Rita, thanks for the question. And there are many parts to what you just posed, right? And yes, to answer your question, the short answer is yes. It's been noticed, but there are many parts to it, and we got to break down the different components. First component is just talking about the fundamental of what was said. People will always resist change. That's just the nature. Anywhere in the world, people resist change because change is unfamiliar. Um, so people, by default, even if they know the situation is bad and they want it to be better, the idea that of something unknown, isn't something that they will embrace. In fact, I would tell you that is one of the biggest hurdle that we have in front of us. Mr. Cummings has just set out to take on the system. He has set out to change the system. Whenever you take that path, it is a path that usually those that are established will resist, right? You saw it with Peter Obi in Nigeria. You saw it even with Barack Obama in the US. Anyone that goes on a change path will always run into headwinds with establishment. And usually you need the young people, right, to be the ones that push you. Anytime you're pushing the message of change, you need to be able to galvanize young people because young people are the ones that are embracive of change, you know. Whereas older people are more stakeholders and they're less embracive. A handful will, but for the most part. So that's the first construct. The second construct has to do with some of the challenges I would say in terms of the socioeconomic depravity and disparities in the society. People fear that come from the diaspora and take their jobs from them or their potential jobs. So that so there's also another construct that when you dealing, you have to also understand. Um, and then the third piece I would say is more what some people from the diaspora have done that have conditioned the people on the ground that way. As you know, Madame Salif, when she was in power, she took a lot of people from the diaspora. And let's just say the experience wasn't always the best for the people on the ground, right? Um, and so some of that informs the orientation. And so when you are there, then it's incumbent upon you to show them differently. First, we're not the same 6 and 7. We're not trying to do the same thing. We're really here to change this country for your benefit. That's the first thing. Second, oh no, not coming for your economic opportunity or your job. But then third, okay, I understand your fear in terms of this unknown, but this is why if we change this system, how your lives can improve, how this country can get better. So it's a combination of addressing whatever fear and apprehension that folks may have that have been informed by past experiences with other diasporans, to also then helping show them, that this new Liberia is a better Liberia for them and their children. So that's why you gotta be evangelists, you gotta be advocates, not warriors and defenders.
Right.
Great.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right. Well, again, thanks everyone for their time. I look forward to seeing all of those who can make it in Liberia. I will be there. Like I said, I leave in a week. Because I've literally relocated to Liberia now for about a couple of months. I only came back to help mobilize resources. And so I'll be looking forward to seeing all of you when you get there. Before you get there, let me know so that we can um, have a whole system in place in terms of how to utilize and plug people in. And even if someone's just coming for a visit, let me know. Everybody here knows I'm easily accessible. Dolly has my information. Paul, Lanford, um, Orita, they all do. So for those that don't have it, please, you can reach out. I will share my local number, my Liberian number later will fall once I'm back in country. But yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your afternoon. Um, hopefully, if Mr. Cummings gets situated in time, he may join you all later on today. The VSB, like I said, she and I are supposed to be going to a fundraiser in the next 4 hours for her. So I don't know if she does, it will be in the next couple of hours. But her participation is probably less likely. But again, thank you all, and looking forward to seeing everyone who can make it, and those who can. Looking forward to still seeing you involved for the next 90 days and onwards, because we're still going to need everybody in terms of the fight to rebuild Liberia.
Great. Thank you, Chairman, and I'll be seeing you probably in 2 or 3 weeks on the ground. But before then,
Okay.
have a pleasant good day. And if you guys can just make a vehicle available for the team from Europe, it will be helpful.
And the team from US is asking for the same thing.
All
Yeah,
right.
so that means it's a necessity.
So what I'm getting at is they're complaining. I mean, Rita was there and she saw they didn't have no vehicle. Yeah, the team from the US, nobody had vehicles. Bottom line, they all had to pay for themselves. I'm just saying, we'll see what we can do.
Yes. At least give all the currency you refuse to
Yeah.
visit us. At least let's get something from you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So on that note, my regards to the VSB and the SB. I'll see you guys soon. And good luck with
Okay.
your fundraiser. And you ask the people to support us. We're on Bottom Line Live now. The cash app is there. If anyone can support us from that end, it will be grateful. Thank you for being with us.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. You so call us people.
Hmm?
Because
So, people watching, people are interested, people commenting. You guys are doing well. Okay. So on this note, guys, the fundraiser still goes on. We're gonna be going around to see what people can pull in.
So,
But it was good that you joined us. And
ladies and gentlemen, this is the Liberia that we come from, and we are trying. We want our kids to go back. You heard the chairman. It's Liberia for every one of us. And if you travel to Liberia today, tears will set in your eyes. It's gone bad. So it's our time, it's our kids' time, and we need to get Liberia on the best path. So on that note, we're here for a fundraiser, and I pass it over to the all-powerful lady, Sis Dolly. Talk to her about the fundraiser.
Yeah, this I'm going to go to the core of this thing. You know, most of us here was born in Liberia. Have a better place there in the country. Regardless of how many people passed over my home, how we call ourselves. Our kids, some of them born here, some of them grew up here. At the end of the day, Liberia is the only country. I don't care how you put it. And one thing people need to understand, when you was leaving Liberia, you left as a Liberian, not as a Namibian, not as a Ethiopian, not from Bon County, not from Grand County, but you left as a Liberian. So the only thing we all have in common here is Liberia. The only party we have in common is Liberia. Whatever way we put it, we can all sit here and say, well, I'm doing okay, I'm fine. At the end of the day, you are asked where you're from originally. That's the question that comes. So it's not time for county, it's not time for party, it's time for Liberia. Some of us go to Liberia once or twice a year. And every time you go back, it looks like 200 years ago. Every time you get back, it's 200 years ago. So we can all sit here and say, I got things to do, I got my bills to pay. Eh,
Sure, understand.
I have my bill. Me, I got time. Me, I going to a concert. I bought my ticket already. The nigga said it here.
You're talking to me.
At the end of the day, Liberia is all we have. It's the only country that will never ask, where are you from? It's the only country. So even if it's 100 crowns, and we all ask the question today, how are you prepared for the election? What are you going to do so this won't happen? The only way we can do it and do it right is to have pool washers. All over the world is pool washer. We need to compensate them. We need to train them. We, the supervisor, we're not asking for anything. We're asking you to help pay them and for them to be identified. That when they wear a jacket, you know, okay, I'm going to ask you. That's one. And to make sure that nobody votes twice. To make sure that nobody is coming to say, oh, I was not here. That's what they are there for. So we are here today. I know we're not much. But we can commit ourselves. We can commit ourselves. Anything. We need this jacket as of last week because it takes 8 to 5 days to get to Liberia. So manufacturing is not a problem. The shipment is a problem. When it gets there, they hustle and bustle. So we have to send it by air. So it becomes more expensive. So that's why we are here today. Whatever. We have t-shirts. We have something that we all from back home we know. We call it coconut candy. We have milk candy. We have Kaya. We all know Kaya. What you feel that can help. You don't have to say, but the only thing we ask is if you commit yourself, please, we shouldn't want behind to say, come and pay this money that you committed yourself to. Because Liberia is all we have. We all have income as Liberia. So if we don't sacrifice now, our great grandchildren unborn will be the one to pay the price. And I'm sure we don't want that. So let's look at the fundraising. We have the t-shirts. Fix, what is it? Ellis Cummings, the Fixer, Fix Liberia, CPP 2023 is going for 250 crowns. Yeah. It's 250, yeah. It's 25.
20 euro.
Yes, it's 250 crowns. Yeah, 250 crowns for this one. And then we have a medium. We have, they're all in medium.
There should be a large in there.
No, I said.
Oh, you took your large. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's a large. That's large. Yeah, that's large, and the rest is medium. But one thing when the teacher is there. But the most important thing is that we have all kinds. We have eat, we have drink, we have fun. So let us contribute. Let's do something. Buy something. It's the Vicks number. Eunice, you're not people the Vicks number. It's 94. 94 266 906.
Is that your number?
Yeah, that's the Vicks. So we have whatever amount, whatever you think these things. We all know policies are expensive. We know coconut is expensive. You get fresh coconut. These are fresh. This is fresh coconut. We all, yeah. That was something like that. Also, that's two. We said there was something there. Also, you have to grate it, and then we also have that milk candy. If we know that this is made from condensed milk, then that's something good thing about it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, of course. That's something. Please. This is coconut candy. Please wash it. Rico. Let me get a kind of.
Everything is coconut. With different colors.
And then this is milk candy. What candy? Darling.
This is the CPP Euro Fundraiser. As you can see, they have coconut candy, milk candy, t-shirt, pins. There are a lot of people. There's drinks, food. These are the CPP, the fixer. These are our guests here. For the cost, we go around the table. There are a lot of food here. We have Western food. We have fufu and soup here. There's a barbecue grill over there. There are more people that are coming. So we are live in the place called Turnsburg. Turnsburg, a beautiful city. It is sunny here, very, very warm. As you can see, it says Dolly is on here. And you can see Orita is having a Grumpy candy. And this is just cheap, so you can all have our cash app number display if you want to make any contribution. This is it. And I can see Jamal is in the studio. How are you, Jamal?
Well, we're doing great here from the city of Manchester. Although you guys are doing a great time having a great time in Norway. How is it? Can you repeat what city are you in Norway at the moment?
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, it's wonderful here. The weather is good. As you can see all of these beautiful people that are buying. So the fundraiser is taking place now. We are live on the bottom line discussion. For those that follow us, share the show, and you can support us on the Cash app. We here in Tonsberg, Norway.
Right. Paul, while you on there, do you expect to how long this is going to last for? Is it up to midnight?
Say that again.
The program, is it going up to what time? Is it up to midnight too? We need to call all people around to make sure they show up at wherever they are.
The program is up. People are still coming. We just had a Zoom conference with the ANC global leaders. They were on for a little while. They just left. So yeah, and at some point we heard that Mr. Cummings may end up joining the Zoom. So we're here and the program is ongoing.
Right. Can you highlight some of the points while you went around with the global ANC global leader? What did he say concerning the diaspora participation in the election in Liberia? Can you tell us one or two things that you talked about?
Yeah, one of the highlights was they asked the diaspora Liberians if they can come on the ground to engage their people in Liberia, to call them because this election is crucial. Is then one of the issues that came out say if they slip our hands in the next 18 years before somebody may merge as Mr. Cummings. So this is the time that they're asking Liberians to call their relatives. Those that can make it on the ground, they can make it on the ground. It'll be helpful. If they can't, but yet they take the telephone and call their people and talk to them.
Right. I also understand, I also heard that this fundraiser is specifically for the CPP or to make sure that you support the campaign Liberia. Is that correct?
Yeah. The fundraiser is actually for the poll washer, provide reflector vests for the poll washer. So they have been all around across Europe. The CPP are raising funds because they don't want the election to be rigged. So to support the poll washer by providing them with reflector vests and then also cash because you need to pay them to maintain them. So that's what the money is all about. So we're asking people to kind of donate wherever they are. This is for Mama Liberia. Even we learned that other parties too are raising funds for the poll washer because they don't want at the end of the day saying the election were rigged by the government.
Right, Paul. Speaking about the pool washer, I also understand that some Liberians that didn't have the opportunity to go home and register to vote, and the real political parties are asking the Liberian, diaspora citizen to go home and be part of the process by at least being the pool washer. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, spot on.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are you telling them? Whoever is listening, are you telling them they should make their way to Liberia early
Yeah.
in October to be part of the process, at least to register as a pool watcher in your country to support their political parties and make sure the process is set up. I also understand that there's some way. Who do we get to in terms of you want to go to Liberia to be part of the process to become a pool watcher or help in any other way? If someone want to do that, who do we get in touch with?
Well, it'll also be on the ground. The chairman is CPP Global. He will be on the ground starting from next week, and then he will make his number available that people can get in contact with him. Even if you won't be there for the election, while you visiting, you can engage them. When we have one of our panelists here, Linford World is also here. Linford, this is Jamal Kamara is online. He want to have a chat with you. How you feel about this fundraiser?
Well, I want to say I'm very much impressed with the few people in Norway who are present here, who sympathize with the ANC or the CPP. And remember that this is a political party event. If it was just ordinary party, some birthday or wedding party, we will not have space here for the people. But because people lay on different political sides, that's why people who are sympathetic and supporting the CPP have gathered here. But on the average, I'm impressed. The commitment, the willingness to do what they're doing is what's important for me, not the crowd. But we have a lot of people have travel already gone by. We had a good number of people here who are here to support the event. So we are happy and want to say thank you to all of them. And for all of the Liberians in Norway who are still undecided as to who to support in this election, we want to let you know that Mr. Cumming brings, we and Councillor Charlie Bronski bring the difference in what you have been looking at or what you have been used to. So it's good that we now think and say, no, listen, we need change. And I want to encourage you that change is not an easy thing. Change requires commitment. Change requires different thoughts, different school of mentality and the rest of it. So I just want to encourage you to begin to think about Liberia, not about yourself, not about who you like, not about who you are used to.
So while Linford is on, can we ask Linford a question?
With everything, and I just bought my ticket, my T-shirt.
So Jamal got a question for you, Linford.
Yeah.
Linford, will you display that T-shirt and tell us how much that T-shirt costs for and what is it?
Let me just display the T-shirt. This is a very quality T-shirt, and this T-shirt costs 250 krona. The equivalence of $25, $25, $22. So anybody who wants any of this T-shirt, can contact me. They can contact Paul. They can contact Dolly. They can contact any one of us here in Norway, and you can get a copy of this T-shirt. We have sufficient of it. If you want different colors, we can say. As you see the one on Paul now, I'm not worn mine, but it's a very, very quality T-shirt. Just from the arm, right here, the arm here, and the color, you can tell that it's a very quality T-shirt.
Yeah.
So, if you want something, you can let us know.
Right. Thank you, Linford. I'm going to pass the phone to Linford World, and you can have a discussion on this.
Okay,
Linford, can we have a comment from one or two persons before you guys go on with your party concerning the fundraiser?
Yeah.
Can we speak to Dolly Nelson, please? Sis Dolly Nelson.
Yeah, we're gonna talk to Dolly Nelson, but see, Dolly, let me just to let you know what she's doing right now. She's on it. This is Bottom Line Life, and she's promoting a T-shirt. Imagine that I was able to get a T-shirt. She's making business.
All right, then can we get someone to speak to with regard to the fundraiser?
Yeah. We're going around. We have Ulrika Menon. She's all the way from Sweden, and she's a panelist on the Bottom Line. And this is the Bottom Line, Ulrika. Please do not run away.
All right, got someone to speak to. There's a lady. Yeah, okay.
Okay, and there's this lady. She's Patience James. And guess what? Yeah, she can get me hard time. You know, when we come to CPP and and CDC, she can give me hard time. But imagine that she's very, very committed to this event. She came here early on, and she's been having fun time. But let me just ask her, Patience, I know you support CDC, but you are here at this CPP event. Just let us know exactly what are you taking from here back? What have you learned from here?
From here, I've learned about unity. Never mind any party you belong to. Unity is the goal. Without unity, our country cannot be fixed. No matter which party you want, we should all unite to be Liberia. That's the thing I take from here.
Okay. And as you heard her, unity is what Liberia needs, and no matter the party affiliation, but as long as the whole country, all of us are united, we'll build a vibrant Liberia. Meaning that whoever wins, Joshua won 2017, he's our president. If Cummings wins 2023, he will be our president. If Waka wins, he will be our president. But all we need is unity. Thank you very much, Patience. And so bottom line is here live, and we are
Linford.
Yes.
Linford, I know you have a great thing to do. God, people are coming up. Just to let those who are watching us right now, if you just join our This is Born Live from Norway, there's a going on now in CPP group in Norway. I don't know this. Linford, do you remind us what city is it? Linford, is there?
Yeah. What was the question again?
What's the city? Where is it taking place right now?
It's called Tonsberg.
Okay, and now, Tonsberg in Norway.
Tonsberg is the Tons Mountain. I don't know how that, because here we do name our places, or even some human beings they are named after things like mountain, river, or something. So the meaning of that is like Tons Mountain.
Right. All right. I'm Jamal Kamara from studio in Manchester, UK. I'm joining Linford Guer now, Linford Egre Guer now in Tønsberg in Norway at the fundraiser, CPP fundraiser in Tønsberg in Norway. If you just joining us, please, we want wherever you are, if you're around Norway right now, please make your way. It's all about Liberia. It's about supporting unity, supporting the government, supporting the country. Make sure that we have a perfect government in our country. We make sure that we want to be part of the process as diaspora Liberians. So that's why they are together. He just spoke to a lady who is a die-hard supporter of CDC, but she's at the fundraiser right now. So what do you take from our comment, before I let you go?
Well, I will tell you, Chima, Liberians are hoping for change, and despite the fact that a lot of Liberians did support President Weah in 2017, I think when President Weah ran on the mantra, change for hope, it was the hope of many Liberians that there were going to be change. But then 5 years down, going to 6 years, that change that they expected have not surfaced, has not materialized. So they are now like, okay, we just support this president. This president is ruling. Nothing we can change. We cannot reverse our decision. But what happens next? After here, what happens next? So I think this is where the whole battle lies. What can we do? So they are having a second thought, right? They are having a second thought, so to speak, and they are hoping that there will be like maybe let me see if I can get the camera on. Okay, they are hoping that maybe there will be somebody who is bringing change, and Mr. Cummings continue to preach the message of change, and so they are like, okay, maybe we can find an alternative, and this is what's going on. So despite a supportive President Weah in 2017, some of them are saying like, okay, if there is somebody who is thinking about change, I think we can lean toward that person.
Yeah. Linford, I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you got a lot of people pouring in. We'll rejoin you pretty soon. Pull in the Tønsberg for the program. But in the meantime, we just want to remind Liberia, wherever you are, this is live, coming to you live from in Norway, taking Norway, where we bring it to you live. Is the fundraiser going on with the CPP supporters in Norway carrying on live. Therefore, just speaking to our concerning their activities, and I'll be speaking to some attendance at the program. So, Linford, let you to go and have fun, and we'll rejoin you from studio in Manchester. And see you later.
I'm having fun with the Lone Star, rare Lone Star.
Take care and have fun. We'll rejoin you soon, Linford. And
okay. Okay,
It's,
okay,
it's
guys.
back from you from the studio in Manchester.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Jima Kamara from Manchester City. He's coming. He was in Studio B there, and I'm in Studio A here in Tonsberg, Norway. We have schools of Liberians here who have come to grace this event, marking the fundraiser for the CPP or the ANC, sorry, the CPP branch here in Norway. Thanks a lot, and we hope to come back to you again at the climax of the event. Thanks a lot. Let me see. Okay, so yeah, the folks are still around. They say, you know, we just came from eating, so a lot of people are around. I think you can see the tables. Let me just make a panoramic view. You can see the tables. I say kind of busy, and my own table here with a lot of mix and stuff. So actually, it's a very good event, and I think everybody here has had enough to eat, enough to drink, and in fact, not even half of what we have here. So I'm like, I don't know. The rest of it I'll remain behind here because I'm not traveling tonight. I'm going to be sleeping here. I live 6 hours away from here, so I'm going to be sleeping here. So the rest of the night will continue, and I will will continue to what we call the gogo in Liberia. The gogo is the bottom part of that palm one. When you tap the palm one, when the palm one settles, that the down part, that one not for picking it for the big people. So we stay here and we deal with the gogo. But I mean, on a serious note, we've had a wonderful time and uh, huh? Change money? What dolly? Oh no, I don't have change. Oh, but come. Where you want pass money?
I already did. I
Mhm.
already did.
Oh,
I don't pay.
oh, okay,
I like this.
okay. I have only 200 krona. Yeah. I don't have change, but she should have change because
Yes.
yeah, I can change it for you. So, we want to say thank you very much and have, have a nice day.